and tend to say they start moving, all our manufacturing job to Southeast Asia, thus doing following up the Western economy, and then there've been a lot of various contortion to try to rebalance the economy. But once the job are gone, the job are gone. So it then you see austerity and basically cutting wages, uh, high level of unacknowledged inflation, they then cut the dismantle the welfare state, um, and dismantle the welfare state, the complete decimation of public services. So we get tragedies like Grenfell, but Grenfell, what happened with Grenfell Tower, but then that need to be seen in the context of since in the last 9 years, since 2010, they've been closing, I believe, in the region of all over the country, in the region of 40 fire stations. So and then if you look at at the more personal level, at the more individual level, you have um, privacy is, even privacy, the idea that we still have any kind of privacy is a complete joke. Obviously, do I need to say more about privacy? But and then then also this is there's a complete decimation of our civil liberties that in this country. Then that's not happens in a vacuum. I mean, in this country, there's been most of the legal aid people can were able to access in the past to get some redress in all kind of situation, working place situation, and many other situation, welfare situation, and etc. etc. It has been totally taken away. So people now, people now, if they've been targeted with some kind of grievous injustice, nothing they can possibly do about it because they don't have the money to hire a lawyer or anything. So that's quite crucial to this. Taking away most form of legal aid is quite crucial to the decimation of our civil liberties. And then in terms of freedom of speech, you can see yourself. We went from a situation maybe just um, you know two, 3 years ago, when there was still the illusion of freedom of speech, but mainly, I suppose it was the freedom of speech online, and also freedom of speech in real life stuff, And now we have a situation where the whole thing has been turned on its head. So, you know, from this illusion, which I think, it was mainly an illusion of freedom of speech. Now we're in a situation when people are left worrying about, with all the terabyte of data we have been surrendering to various social networks, to the internet, and various companies and banks and you name it. You know, people far from from a situation where there is the illusion of freedom of speech. You can say anything you want, more or less, within limit of obviously not instigating any violence or whatever. And now we have this situation whereby people are less worrying, and that is actually something which is very much not being talked about. That is that is quite sinister in a way. It's not talked about because the reality is that we went from a situation where people were either enjoying a certain amount of freedom of speech, or maybe they had the illusion of freedom of speech 3-4 years ago, fairly recently, to a situation where people are left worrying about what's going to happen with all this terabyte of data we have been surrendering to social networks, to our banks, different financial institutions and agency, even the NHS, and so how it is going to affect in the future when we are going to look for a new job or a new accommodation, or even maybe apply for a visa to travel to a foreign country. So that's the reality. So this a reality of freedom of speech, or illusion of freedom of speech, is being replaced instead by fear, by by the situation where people just afraid and worried about speaking out, because not everyone will say something which is is it doesn't conform to the official narrative. You get immediately demonized, and you get immediately demonized. For instance, like when they start all this obscene effort for regime change in Venezuela, in the next couple of days, when there was 2,000 Twitter accounts that were challenging the official narrative on Venezuela, pointing out some basic fact in the following weeks have been proved to be true. Actually, denouncing most of, and then they get their accounts, completely deleted. 2000 Twitter account just for questioning, for maybe bringing forward some basic facts, challenging the official narrative of Venezuela. They got their account, Twitter account deleted. So it seems that we are going to see, but there was possibly a certain amount of freedom of speech, to a situation where, if you in any way, challenge the official narrative, immediately you get totally demonized, burned, like witches in the 17th century, get immediately burned at the stake. Look what happened to Chris Williamson, right? Which a man which I greatly admire. Is Chris Williamson, MP, member of Parliament, for Labour member of Parliament, one of the more outspoken and decent, and member of Parliament, I believe, and he was the only he was the only member of Parliament, as far as I know, to express any concern for the systematic violation of the human rights of Julian Assange. Possibly the only member of Parliament. And then he was the only member of Parliament to, not the only one, but let's say one of the more outspoken member of Parliament to question the official narrative about Venezuela, for which he was immediately covered with abuse and insults by his fellow member of Parliament. And basically, it's like being demonized for. Basically, it was at a political meeting, say a few days ago. All he said was, I think quite literally, he said the Labour Party should, well, they say we in the Labour Party, we apologizing too much for this. That's all he said. We are apologizing too much for in this anti-Semitism row. That's what all he said. So basically, immediately a horrible witch hunt. It was fairly quickly suspended from the Labour Party, and then immediately there is a lot of people start talking about expelling him altogether from the Labour Party. You must consider that this is Chris Williamson for the grassroots Labour Party is like a star. You find possibly 95% of the Labour Party members, including myself, I am a Labour Party member, completely supporting him. But to get people like Tom Watson, I'm not going to tell you what I think of Tom Watson because I don't want to get in trouble. Right? But people like Tom Watson, this creature, immediately start calling for the expulsion of. He's one of the more popular member of Parliament with the grassroots Labour Party. All he said is we need to. We apologize too much for this anti-Semitism. In part of the anti-Semitism now, he was not saying, because anti-Semitism is right or because we need to support anti-Semitism. What he was saying because we have the evidence, a lot of evidence, you know, from you can look at this Al Jazeera documentary, The Lobby. You can look at all the ACT papers concerning this integrity initiative propaganda machine, which is basically paid by with our taxpayer money, to spread lies and propaganda. Including lies and propaganda about anti-Semitism, accusing people of anti-Semitism. It's been paid by the Foreign Office, it's been paid with our taxpayer money. It is part of the demonizing Jeremy Corbyn, demonizing his political allies in the Labour Party. There is also this similar organization, connected organization called the Institute for Statecraft. They are doing the same thing all the time, spinning and working with journalists, and they're coming up with stories, digging up stories to demonize Jeremy Corbyn. He's a political ally. So that's what when Chris Williams said, like, we in the Labour Party apologize too much in vis-a-vis of this accusation, fake accusation. That's what I'm saying. So I go a lot further than what I'm saying. I'm going a lot further than what Chris said. I say they're totally fake accusations. It's not that he was advocating anti-Semitism. It was, he was saying, we have the information from documentary, from leaked papers, from documents which came into public domain that all these, we have the documents, we have the information, we have the evidence. These are part of a smear campaign to prevent the Corbyn government, to demonize Jeremy Corbyn, his political allies. So that's what he was saying. And so he was saying, if what he was saying is, if you have the evidence that most of these allegations actually are contrived and malicious, then then we shouldn't just say apologize all the time. We should say, look, there is the evidence that these allegations are malicious. Because you don't achieve anything by appeasing people acting maliciously to discredit Jeremy Corbyn. If you have the evidence, particularly in many cases, we have the evidence that all this is just contrived and malicious. We must say so. That's what Chris was saying. He was not saying advocating anti-Semitism or defending anti-Semitism. He was saying, we have plenty of evidence that all these accusations are contrived and malicious, and so you don't go appeasing a bully. If you have the evidence, instead of apologizing, you should just start bringing these evidence to the table. That was totally demonized in a matter of hours, in a matter of days. People now calling for his expulsion, even though he's getting a huge amount of support in the grassroots Labour Party. When on Friday I heard the story about his suspension, I thought we are all fucked. We are all fucked, because this is a person which has huge support in the grassroots Labour Party, enormous support. Is a man of enormous integrity. If for saying just, because that's what he was saying, like, if you have some evidence that these accusations are malicious and contrived and fake, then you don't go appeasing a bully. You bring instead of constantly apologizing and groveling, you bring the evidence to the table. That was all Chris was saying. He was not defending anti-Semitism. So that was the only MP who ever expressed any concern about, like, Julian Assange human rights. He was the only, the most vocal MP in questioning the narrative about Venezuela. So I think, honestly, I heard the news about his suspension. That we are fucked, because if they can do this to Chris, which is enormous support in the Labour Party in the country, and just like that suspend him. What chance do ordinary people like myself or anyone else? I mean, to speak out about what's going on. So, first thing I want to talk about. So I think we are the idea that we are all, we are all being enslaved. So it's getting. I think actually things are getting worse. At least in terms of, you know, the people are having the upper hand in this kind of. I don't there is a lot of disgruntled people, there is a lot of frustrated people, but in a way it's because it's due to the due to the a hierarchical structure of society. You may have like 95% of the people who are desperately unhappy about the situation, but it doesn't filter through because of the hierarchical structure of society. So. That's what happening it's happening in history many times. So you may have a situation that 95% of the people are totally, dissatisfied, angry about the political system, but because of the pyramidal hierarchical structure of society, it is which include the control of all kinds of media, all kinds of way of people communicating with each other and etc. That the anger, this frustration doesn't have any way of filtering through because of the hierarchical structure of society. So that's what we have now. People, increasing number of people have been pushing to abject poverty in North America and Europe, and you can see how angry so many people are. You can see with Brexit, you can see with the yellow vest people in Paris, in France, but I'm sure it's not just the number protesting at the weekend in France. I'm sure if you ask the population, actually people have been asking the population, a lot of French people, they actually support the Yellow Vest movement. So I mean, so there is enormous amount of frustration. On the bright side, I think now in May, I think we are going to have the European election. I don't think this country is people in this country are going to be able to take part. But what is I hope, I think is going to happen is that what is going to be returned after the election is a huge number of Eurosceptic MP. And even though the power of the European, because the whole EU is totally undemocratic pile of garbage, in my opinion, to use a polite term, but I mean, it's totally corrupt and bureaucratic pile of garbage. But so, unfortunately, but what is worth, I think after the May election for the European Parliament, I'm pretty sure what is going to be returned to Brussels is a parliament which totally, in its overwhelming majority, is, you know, Eurosceptic, and for what is worth, I mean, that may make some difference. But even though, but people, there is organization in this country say another Europe is possible. I wish you luck. Another Europe is possible. Will be very nice. If you consider the bureaucratic nature of the European Union, they defend themselves ferociously against any change. You may think another Europe is possible, but if you consider the hierarchical structure of this kind of institution, unfortunately, any change in the European Union and in many other authoritarian institution is very unlikely. So you have this general enslavement, and then you have target individual, and target individual basically, we are like guinea pigs, the canary in the mine, the canaries in the mine, they're using us to, test even new form of enslavement. So they're not satisfied of the carnage they're causing all over the world with people and poverty and wars and bombing, and they're looking for the next generation of the next generation of technique and technologies to testing them on us. The next generation of technique and technologies to further enslave the global population. So they're testing them on us, basically. So on Wednesday, I move a bit the time of the video for a reason I'm not going to get into, which is this, only for this time is going to be between still 1 hour and a half long, it's going to be from 3:30 to 5 o'clock. It is Wednesday. So, and as I said, I'm not going to, if people want to come, I'm not going to, grovel or try, oh, please come along. It's up to you. If you want to come, at the time when I'm going to waste a lot of time persuading people, I've been inviting people, then it's up to them, and I'm going to, it's up to them if they decide to come. It's only that much I can do to persuade people, or I want to do to persuade people anyway. So but I think I would say that for target individuals, particularly at the time, it's becoming increasingly clear the rather dubious and suspicious nature of internet communication, internet activism. I think people would want to have a situation when they can meet face to face without the mediation of the rather malevolent, often mediation of the internet, or of the mediation of social network, and meet to face to create some kind of rallying point for target individuals, because I'm persuaded there's under target individuals, all over this country, and unfortunately, like John Holman said on one occasion, is like to get target individuals to work together is like herding cats, unfortunately. So I know exactly what is going on with people, and but so I will keep organizing it. I will keep organizing this Wednesday. Now we are in a period when the Parliament is sitting quiet for a few months, non-stop. They've even cancelled the midterm recess, or I think it was supposed to be between the 14th of February, 25th of February. It was cancelled because of Brexit. So now we have been basically the Parliament sitting almost non-stop for 3 months, which is good because it gives you a platform, an opportunity for people to voice, to go there around Parliament to voice their protest for whatever they want to protest about, or they are very unhappy about. So until the 4th of April the 4th, the Parliament is going to be sitting. So we have still a window for 1 month to raise awareness, and yeah. So in fact, is we have one of the problems we're having also is what is usually called cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance, or which sometimes I call cognitive schizophrenia, whereby people, for instance, they obviously don't want to. They don't want to. People are not prepared to acknowledge what's happening to us in any way. Even people sometimes fellow political activists, the people in in the alternative media, because in a way that is one of the main elements of their social conditioning is that they're not supposed to acknowledge this kind of activity going on. So that's one of the main reasons. So it's a bit like the ultimate taboo, and for people to acknowledge that targeting is going on. So you get people like they know they know what is going on. You have reason to believe they know what is going on. They're even involved in targeting. But if you try to talk to them, I don't mean accusing them, but just having a normal conversation with them, like trying to explain about targeting. And then a lot of people's reaction is like, you must be crazy, you must be crazy. And they may be like, they really believe you must be crazy, even though they're involved in it and they know what is going on, because maybe they think like, yes, it's going on, but to talk about it, you must be crazy, because you don't talk about this kind of stuff. It's one of the ultimate taboos. You don't go there. So that's cognitive dissonance, cognitive schizophrenia is everywhere. Like, I remember, the first responders. There was a video of the first responders at the foot of the building number 7 on 9/11, World Trade Center, building number 7. There was some first responders, and then at some point they all start to scatter, run away, because they were saying like, oh, they're bringing it down, they're bringing it down. So they were saying things like they knew that it was a controlled demolition, but then if you go to speak to them after a couple of weeks, they say, oh, you think it was a controlled demolition? Oh, absolutely not. That was the fire spreading, and whatever, so they have this kind of schizophrenia. People it's like a chameleon. They adapt their belief system to, say, if they are work, they believe certain things. When they meet their friend, they believe something different, and then they are with their family, and then they believe something. It's totally cognitive schizophrenia. So you see the ease when the mainstream media and the establishment, the ease with them, they able to take totally preposterous narrative like the narrative about Venezuela, or and then in a couple of days, you get the mainstream media hammering people with the broadsheet and tabloids and the TV channel, but hammering people with the same nonsense for non-stop 24/7 for 2 or 3 days. After that, it become like the official truth. And then if you say something to question that, then you get burned like a witch, like the witches in the 70s, or the poor women anyway, not witches, but in the 17th century. So you get to the you get this nonsense about Venezuela. They start to spread all these lies, and then in a couple of days, 2,000 people, on Twitter, just asking some basic questions, or bringing to the table some real fact about what is going on in Venezuela. They get their account deleted. So. But it seems that also another thing is that through the years, the tolerance for dissent, at least at an official level, then you get people in the street at the yellow vest. They show you what they're thinking at a very basic level. But in terms of filtering through this completely opaque system of control, the establishment, mainstream media, intelligence community, etc., etc. It's like the truth. It doesn't have a chance. All you get, you get. They start coming out with some totally preposterous story, and then you get hammered by mainstream media, tabloid newspaper, and bullshit for 24/7. And then after a couple of days, uh, you know, if you say something going against the official narrative, is a complete witch hunt. Is complete. You're, I don't know, they burn you basically. It's like so on after so on the following day they start all this insanity about Venezuela. Chris Williamson he started to point out some basic truths about what the situation in Venezuela, and basically he got immediately covered with insult. Someone say, "Oh, I think somebody was possibly Alan Davis. Alan Davis is the same one which called Julian Assange a little worm." But Julian Assange is quite tall. Alan Davis is quite small. He's 5 feet or something. Julian Assange is 6 feet or something. So he called Julian Assange a little worm. He described it as a little worm, and then he said he should crawl out of the embassy or something as a little worm. And then when Chris Williamson start questioning the official narrative about Venezuela, he say, yes, he say, how dare you come to the parliament to show your face and question all these mainstream media lies. But he seems to take tolerance for any kind of dissent, at least at a level which is controlled by the media, by the establishment, is getting smaller and smaller. So I mean, as soon as you say something that is questioning the official narrative, you get immediately excommunicated. So let's have a look at a few things, or even if I can find. So I want you again to let know I mean, the thing about Julian Assange is obviously when every cause you support, and I try to show you this, every cause you are supporting, it's very important, like in the words of David Cooper, every cause you support, everything. I was there, I was supporting Julian Assange even before he did took refuge into Ecuadorian embassy. It was already months before that. It was when he was fighting extradition to Sweden. I was already outside Westminster Magistrate Court with all the Julian supporters, So, but at the same time, in the world of David Cooper is. Well, when you're supporting a cause, it's very important to like, to do it by starting with the awareness of your personal oppression as a human being. If you do that, otherwise it becomes some kind of cultish. So it's very important. People taking part in is like, in all the supporting Stop the War, supporting Julian Assange and other worthy causes. I mean, it's very important. You start from the awareness of your personal oppression as a human being. That's what David Cooper wrote, which I think is very important. Otherwise, it becomes some sort of hobby, some sort of cultish thing you do, maybe because you want to get out of the house or you want to meet other people. But, so you need a way to start from the awareness of your personal oppression within the system. That's very important, I think. So basically on Sunday, next Sunday, the 10th of March, between 3 and 5 p.m., there is going to be another video outside the Ecuadorian Embassy in London, in Knightsbridge. It is the poster and no U.S. extradition solidarity vigil for Julian Assange outside the Ecuadorian Embassy. It's quite interesting. Some of the things, is the Julian Assange. It's quite interesting what's happening there because in 2017, around August, September, beginning of October, where we target individuals. We organized 3 videos outside the Ecuadorian embassy. They were, we were supporting Julian, but also it was specifically 3 target individuals event. And I was there with the megaphone and tested all the video. It's been difficult to find them because I wandered this video. I know there is on some hard drive somewhere, but supporting Julian. And I was there with the megaphone and I was shouting, Julian, please help us expose organized stalking and electronic harassment. Julian, please Google organized stalking and electronic harassment. Julian, you may be a victim of electronic harassment too. We know that he's already been a victim of organized stalking anyway from information which is readily available. And we did it 3 times, and so this is the first time there was the 4 or 5 target individual with me. Similarly, the second time, the third time, the thing in my personal life, they were already starting to get pretty heavy. And I went there and I was there on my own. So I think so that also started quite a number of attacks against Les, London and stalking. And after that, a lot of people disappear, stop supporting events and things. So I think so in a sense, I think they very much rely on people's ignorance and stupidity when it comes to or even hiding this targeting in plain sight, like of course it's happening, but because we like these people are bad and dangerous people, and we need to contain them. So that's what they're telling people. So they're hiding it in plain sight. They're relying a lot on people's ignorance and stupidity. But what I was doing there outside the embassy was very much too much on their face at all. So after I did these 3 videos outside the embassy, I got a pretty heavy, repercussions and payback and some kind of retribution, which is, actually changed. My quality of life was actually affected and things. But it's quite interesting though. So that's what happened several months before Julian Assange got all his communication cut off by the Ecuadorian government. So I wouldn't have thought of doing that with the Julian incommunicado, because I thought but at the time, everything, he was still, receiving a lot of visitors, communicating, taking part in video conferences and stuff. So that was several months before they cut all these communications off. And then it's quite interesting because that was the message I was sending to Julian, and we were very, very close to his room. His ground floor, his room is very close to the street, so I assume he was able. Oh, well, on one occasion, on the third occasion, actually, he did something which was actually strange, because at the time he stopped making any appearances, but at the window for quite some time. And on the third occasion, when I was there on my own, he opened the window, shows his head. Uh, um, at the window, and then I kind of froze a bit. I didn't know how to react, because I thought, like, oh, he's annoyed with me. He want me to go away, not to disturb it. So I didn't know. And then I froze. Instead of walking the short distance toward the window, starting a conversation, I kind of froze, because I thought, oh, maybe he's annoyed with me or something. And then, well, it was very quick. Then by the time I put myself together and maybe tried to move toward the window to have a conversation, he kind of closed. He went back. He closed the window. So I'm sure he was getting the message. Julian, please pass us post this stuff and Google it, find out more about it. It may be happening to you. And then it's quite interesting, because before they completely cut his communications, and the last interview he gave to Raptly, to Rush Today Raptly, so they were talking about the future of the internet, the state of the world, geopolitics, and toward the end of the interview, the interviewer asked his question. He asked what Julian what he thought about the Internet of Things. It now become ever pervasive, and I guess fridges connected to the Internet, and all these diabolical devices by Google and Amazon that probably listen to every word we say at home, and all the rest of it. So his reply in a rather strange way, because I tell you this word literally. He said, at some point, he said, it was very strange. He said, instead of actually, so he said something else. Instead of, he said, we are surrounded by some sort of evil intelligent dust. That's what he said, amazingly as this is. We are surrounded by some kind of evil intelligent dust, which is being activated by the mobile phone network. That's what he said. And then, that was the time when some of his closest associates were expressing concern about his mental health, and etc., etc. And then after that, either by design or by coincidence, that was happened just days before all communication was being cut off. So you read into that what you want. I mean, I don't know. I thought I don't know. I thought that the possibility that actually Julian is being targeted with electronic harassment, and what he said then, talking about this evil electronic dust, it was his effort to try to understand what's happening to him. So because it was quite a strange thing to say, but is in a way is a bit reminiscent of the work of different books, and there is an echo there. So for instance, the work of Ilana Freeland in the United States. Basically, she's connecting. She's trying to connect a lot of dots, and including the chemtrails, which are happening. And now they even admitting they're spraying people and try, in the last couple of years, they changed their tune. First they say, oh, you're talking about chemtrail, you must be crazy, right? Then the last couple of years they say, oh, of course we are doing it. What do you think? I mean, and but we are doing it to counter climate change. That's what government scientists have been saying for the last couple of years. So there is the work of Ilana Freeland. She thinks like is we are a lot of people in different ways that get targeted with microwave. Either by because we have been created this kind of electromagnetic soup, these pernicious electromagnetic soups we surround us from every side, or in certain situations, certain people actually targeted by microwave, either to create debilitation or to debilitate people, or to use them as guinea pig to fine-tune this kind of technology, the technology of using microwave by targeting people, interacting with the human body, human nervous system. So Elana Freeland is in her excellent work. She's thinking that we are all basically at the moment constantly targeted with microwave, either because we have created this diabolical electromagnetic soup surrounding us from every side, or because certain people in certain situations they actually use as guinea pig to test this technology, or in certain situations, like for the women at Green and Common, at the peace camp at Green and Common, or these diplomats in China and Cuba recently to the coast, or the American embassy in Moscow at the time of the old Soviet Union, is all done to basically also to make people ill, debilitate people, etc., etc. Ilana Freeland thinks that you know. It's been proven that a lot of the stuff they've been spraying in the last 20, 30 years with chemtrails, which they say, oh no, before they were saying, oh no, they're not chemtrails, they're contrails, which is, they look totally different in the atmosphere, they look completely different. Contrails, the chemtrails, so that was a total fallacy. But now they're saying, anyway, they say, oh yeah, we are spraying, and to protect you from climate change. But another Freeland is thinking that actually, so we have the evidence, many tests being conducted on the ground that is, some of the stuff they were spraying, apart from all kind of viruses, and that's a fact, you better believe me, because apart from viruses and bacteria, all kinds of strange exotic viruses and bacteria as part of using the entire population as guinea pig, they were also spraying a lot of heavy metals like strontium and barium and Celsius, and Elena Freeland thinks that actually when you breathe in all this stuff, this heavy metal, it actually increase the conductivity of your brain, because brain, from a certain point of view, your brain is like an electrical device which oscillate and it vibrate between the 0 hertz of the 0 40 hertz. So that's it's like electrical. So if you look at it, you can look at the human brain from different point of view, but one way of looking at the human brain is like an electrical device which is between functioning between the frequency of 0 hertz and 40 hertz, which is the lowest frequency of the spectrum. Then you have your television, your microwave or something that has billion of hertz, or the megahertz, terahertz, etc., gigahertz, and the rest of it. So, Elena Freeland, they think that actually a lot of these heavy metals they've been spraying for 30, 40 years in the atmosphere. They actually, one of the effects they have is to increase the people's brain conductivity. So in a way, they make people more susceptible, because it's a very complicated story. But at the time they were creating the microwave radar system. At the end of toward the end of World War II, and toward the end of the war, it started getting used in anger, being deployed in anger. The military radar system. They found out quite by accident that people were working in this environment where they're testing with microwave and creating this new technology. They were hearing all kind of noise, clicks inside the head. So that's the way they discovered the Frey effect, from the name of the scientist which researched this phenomenon. The Frey effect, meaning that if you are in the proximity of microwave, you start hearing all these That's, I think, it was actually the beginning of when they realized that you can use microwave to interact with the human body, nervous system, and they tried to experiment. Then all the funny thing they were doing with MK Ultra, doing all the crazy stuff. Slowly they abandoned all the stuff, all this fishing expedition. They focused on microwave. So MK Ultra became in the world of Ilana Freeland, MK Ultra became EMK Ultra, electronic MK Ultra, and they focus most of the energy in using us as guinea pig to find increasing better way of the interfering with the human body, the human nervous system, and the rest is history. so, so Ilana Freeland she was saying like one of the reasons that they're spraying huge amounts of this heavy metal on over countries and city and town and the rest of it is because they want to increase human brain, people breathing in all this heavy metal. If they pass through the brain blood-brain barrier, if they get straight into your brain, and they are increasing the conductivity for brain. So basically, they make you more susceptible to if try to decide to irradiate with microwave or to irradiate a single individual, to irradiate the entire town, to irradiate entire country, like apparently they did at the time of the first Gulf War with Iraq, is making your brain more susceptible to be respond to interact with this microwave. So it's so in a super strange way. It seems that actually when Julian Assange in this interview mentioned this phrase, he used this phrase like he said evil. He said evil intelligent dust. His Simon mostly was people will say that sounds totally crazy to me. Most people will say that. To me, is it's like he was echoing the Ilana Freeland theory, and that he was researching into basic electronic harassment. So, meaning that he was starting to look into the reality of electronic harassment. Obviously, at the moment his situation is very difficult on many fronts. I heard that he's lost a lot of people been visiting him. He's lost a lot of weight. He's not he's sharp as a mentally he's totally sharp, and but physically his physical health has been declining, and so obviously also the situation at the embassy has been deteriorating greatly. So I think it's probably, even if he's been looking like, probably, even if he spent some time looking into electronic harassment, or if even he has been a victim of electronic harassment, probably given his current situation, probably knows a lot better than to talk about it at the moment. So maybe may have tried to say something just before getting all his communication cut, and then he realized that probably is kind of wiser on his part to to keep it quiet, just with all the stuff surrounding him and also stuff going on at the embassy. Probably, maybe he started to look into electronic harassment because, Julian Assange spent most of his life on the internet, and the internet is saturated with information about people talking about electronic harassment. So maybe he knows, maybe it's happening to him, maybe he starts saying something about it, and then maybe now he thinks I better keep it quiet. So, talking about Julian Assange, and then I would like to conclude. I know I basically try to make people aware that we have all been enslaved. If you look at how many people in abject poverty there is at the moment in North America and Europe, then you have all this. You go any major city in Europe, in North America, you got all these big tent city of homeless people, and on different locations. So I mean, we are being enslaved, and until recently, at least people there were some there's some freedom of speech, right? People are still able to enjoy some freedom of speech. And now, my feeling is that the freedom, this sense of freedom to be able to vent their frustration. There was many online people like talking about the crime of the Tory government, what they were doing to the country, for instance. And now it's been replaced by fear. It's still having, feeling free to speak out. People think like they're probably spending most of the energy worrying about what's happening, all this terabyte of information they have been surrendering it, and probably going to find out when they're going to look for their next job, next accommodation, or maybe applying for a visa to visit a foreign country. So that's. But anyway, I would like to see if I can share you some of the super Orwellian information which has been happening in, there's the land of 1984. So look if I can see if I can. Okay, so yeah. We'd like to have a look at the latest news in the last few days, the last couple of days, all this Orwellian crazy stuff that's been going on there. Maybe trying to get the, yeah. So let's have a look at what is going on in the so yeah, that's quite interesting, and Facebook. So there was this fake Facebook Insider. It's very quite interesting, possibly from my point of view. Facebook Insider leaks docs explaining deboosting, troll report, and political targeting in interview. So basically, this was actually it is exposed by Project Veritas and James O'Keefe, which is the founder possibly of Project Veritas, and and basically that's also a lot of people think Project Veritas, they're just fascist, because I think we need. I think, as far as I know, they bring it to the table quite some interesting information in the last few months and years, and that they've not been going for that long. But James O'Keefe is, as far as I know, is a man of some integrity. So I think we maybe you should try to, maybe you should try to, maybe you should try to, maybe you should try to get a bit beyond this kind of left. Unfortunately, if you say like it's so polarized at the moment, the political debate, which is if you say like we should try to go a bit beyond this left-right paradigm, and then immediately like people from the right say, oh, you must be a communist, and you get people from the left, oh, you must be a fascist. But so the thing, so but anyway, I think it would be quite a good idea to try to be a bit more open-minded. If someone has something interesting to say, just to try to listen instead of labeling them a communist or fascist or what have you not. I'm very interested in this. I'm very interested in this. Let's see. Unfortunately, no, because there is two versions of this article. There is it's a document. There is two versions of this article. I'm actually looking at the wrong one, because there is one which is basically all the material is presented as some sort of video. There is another one which is a text article. I was actually looking for the text article which describe in detail what is been emerging about the activities of Facebook, but this one is just a video, so which is not what I exactly was looking for. So to find out, you need to watch the video, which I don't really want to go into that just now. So, but I find it quite interesting because the deboosting notion, which because I think I personally been getting a lot of shadow banning from YouTube, from Facebook. So they're not banning me, but they quite, I think, ferociously shadow banning me. That's my personal opinion, anyway. But also in the text version of the article, when everything is in the text version of the article, is it's very interesting because they describe some of the things like Facebook is doing to its users, censoring them, and you know, some of actually there is a confirmation, a validation of some of the things that target individual, like saying occasionally from time to time, like you know, for instance, like the target sometimes, oh, I like your post, but I'm not being able to I was preventing from commenting on it. Or I like your post, but I was preventing from sharing it. And people say like, most people would probably say like, oh come on, don't be stupid and paranoid. What you think they bothered doing that to you or something? But the good thing about this article is show that they actually do some of this stuff. Particularly when there is something crucial going on, like an election or something, or something where they like have some kind of political agenda in supporting a certain political force or whatever. They try to actually sabotage the normal running of Facebook, like, so people actually preventing people from commenting on certain posts, preventing people from sharing certain posts. So that's what I found very interesting about this article, apart from the boosting thing, which I think is victimized myself big time. So I think so. It is another thing that when we talk about people say making like you say, oh, I think that actually this Facebook is doing this to me. People say, oh, come on, don't be paranoid, don't be stupid. And then there's this information which actually came out some time ago, and they were saying that. Facebook, this came out a couple of years ago. It was proven that they were using a user as guinea pig. That's what they were doing. Like they were, for some time, people were posting stuff, and they were withholding all kind of feedback. So, like, posting stuff, people say, making comments, say, oh, a few likes or something. Complete, like maybe a couple of hours, keep posting and posting stuff, and absolutely no reaction, no feedback from anyone. They were withholding feedback. And then after a while, what they started to do, to start to flood people with all the feedback they've been withholding. They were starting to flood people with all the withheld feedback to see how people were reacting. So I mean, that's quite. And then you get targeted individuals that they say things like, oh, Facebook is doing this to me. Oh, come on, don't be paranoid. That is crazy. Yeah, so they do crazy things to people. That's what I just trying to say. They do crazy thing to people. Facebook and all the social network, and probably all over the internet. They all kind of crazy stuff and going on. And when people say something, they say, "Oh, you must be paranoid. You are crazy." So this is another interesting article for, I don't know if this is just limited to the United Kingdom or if it's international, but it seems that the 8th of March, which is the Women's Day, basically women in this country, at least they're planning a big strike, a big protest and that's some people may want to know about this. Let's see if I can find more details. Obviously, they probably, it's across the world, so it's not just a UK thing. Oh, okay, all right. And then they probably the women getting together in most major city in the world, then, not just in the United Kingdom. All right, so that's it. Then let's have a look, go back and see. Okay, so all that this article about is not entire from Mean Press, which I think they are excellent. I mean, they are stars. Mean Press, I would recommend. Google it up. Mean Press, the stars, and you say John Bolton defends the Moro doctrine as Juan Guaido, the punk, lobs new threats at politician in Venezuela, I presume. So I'm sure most people know what the Monroe Doctrine is, which is basically something which go back to the 19th century, where it is Monroe, which I think it was the U.S. president, promoted this doctrine that is basically all the North, South America, Central America, they're all like the United States backyard. So the United States has a right to to like kind of to exert some kind of semi-colonial tutelage of the country of the two Americas, and South America, North America, and Central America, what they quite consistently been doing ever since. The interesting thing is that John Bolton, I think, the interesting thing I always found about John Bolton is one of these number of people, I believe include also this new, the new envoy, American envoy for Venezuela or whatever, I think Elliot Abrams, John Bolton, together with people, because people probably no one hardly knows. So this is a fact, there's not that I say this because I empty this or empty that. It's a fact. So if I inform you of a fact, it's not mean that I am anti this or anti that. John Bolton, like Abraham Elliot, Elliot Abrams, and a number of other. He has a dual Israeli-American passport, so that you may find this little morsel of information quite useful. John Bolton has a dual, Elliot Abrams and many others, which I'm not going to name at the moment, that they have a dual. Google it up, check it out. John Bolton has a dual Israeli-American passport. So I suppose it's also quite useful, because if someday you get exposed for all these numerous and horrific crimes, you can always flee to. They're probably going to let him flee to Israel or something. So it's come handy. And this article on the fantastic John Pilger from room 101 to the prisoner say no to Big Brother. So obviously there is a lot of quote from different things. There is George Orwell with 1984, Room 101. There is the Prisoner, the series, the famous, as the Prisoner, the series that was shown, I think, it was in the 70s, 80s. Then there is Big Brother and the rest. So full of whenever I visit Julian Assange, we meet in a room he knows too well. There is a bed table. So, it's like what he's saying, basically, Julian Assange is not going to grovel to the, well, it will make, obviously, he's not going to grovel to these warmongering criminals, but, even if it did, at this point in time, it's like, it wouldn't make any big difference, because they're after his blood anyway. They're baying for blood, and even if you start groveling to these warmongering monsters, it probably, I don't think that will make a huge amount of difference. Let's check some of, there's something interesting happening. Let's have a look at something interesting happening. Some latest news, which is, long shot, Germany want to expand INF treaty to China after the US already buried it. And it is quite interesting. The US deployed THAAD missile defense system to Israel for the very first time. Also, apparently, it is the very first time in the last couple of years the US has been creating a military base in Israel. So, and let's go back and see if we can find something. Oh, okay. This is an article by the excellent. Oh, no, that's I don't know. Strange. Yes, I think this is probably a mistake because I think this article was an article by the excellent Caitlin Johnstone. So, but anyway, you say how not to react when you are smeared as an anti-Semite. Interestingly enough, um, you know, during the weekend, Jeremy Corbyn was assaulted, say, with someone throwing eggs. Okay, it's not a lethal assault, but it's quite interesting that it is part of selective way in which the mainstream media are reporting the news that. There was not a single mention. I think it was probably only possibly, I'm not entirely sure about it, but I think it was possibly only mentioned on Russia Today, and maybe a couple of. I can be entirely sure, but I think it was really played down in most of mainstream media because that because that is showing Jeremy Corbyn in the role of the victim, not as they would like to present him most of the time in the victimizer. So that is not consistent with their narrative. So there's been gone largely unreported. He was assaulted by the, which is not nice. Okay, it was not a little attack, but it's not nice to be humiliated in public, so someone throwing eggs at you. But it went widely unreported because obviously not consistent with the narrative that Jeremy Corbyn is a victimizer, not a victim. So they just Oh, and then there is an interesting documentary from the the Corbett the Corbett Report is this documentary. If I can find it, see if I can get the original version of the document. And that's, is Century of Enslavement, the History of the Federal Reserve, 2014. Yeah, the Federal Reserve was created in 2013, and if you say something about the Bank of England of the Federal Reserve, they immediately accuse you of being a conspiracy theorist. Oh yeah, come on, there's all a conspiracy, but is a fact that most people don't know a fact, and the fact is that the Bank of England, the Federal Reserve, and most central banks all over the world, they're owned by families, by other banks, by private individuals. Yeah. So but interesting, if you are asking the street people, do you think the Bank of England is part of the government, or the machinery of government, or is maybe a private institution? I'm sure 99% of the people will tell you that the Bank of England, and similarly in the US, the Federal Reserve are part of the government, which they are not, absolutely not. I'm telling you, prove me wrong. I mean, it's a fact. The Bank of England and Federal Reserve, because then if people realize that the Bank of England and the Federal Reserve are owned by privately owned, they will ask immediately people are not entirely stupid, so they will start asking the question, why is not our government printing money, instead of going to the Bank of England or the Federal Reserve, borrowing the money with interest, with usury, by either the Bank of England or the Federal Reserve, so they to foster this misapprehension on people that the Bank of England and Federal Reserve are part of the government, which are absolutely not. And I believe, if I'm not wrong, that in the House of Parliament there is a rule. There is a rule. I don't, that in the British Parliament there is a rule in the House of Commons that Members of Parliament are not allowed to ask questions about the ownership of the Bank of England. It's quite interesting because it's what let's see if I can go back there. I will look again, and I think there was a picture of. Let's have a look. So the Centre of Enslavement, the history of the Federal Reserve. So okay. That's enough said about this one. I want to go back because I think we are seeing a picture there of this lady member of Congress, Ilan Omar, I think the name is, which she's found, I think, in a very similar situation of, Jeremy Corbyn and Chris Williamson in this country, which basically to be, to point out some basic facts to immediately be smeared as an anti-Semite. So there's a lot of parallels. There are a lot of but what I found most very really depressing, if I can. That's the picture of Ilan Omar, she's a newly elected member of Congress in the United States. She's saying very interesting and very truthful thing about what's going on in the US and in the world, and she's being burned basically, like usually they're trying to burn her at the stake as part of some kind of witch hunt. And okay, where is it? So this is this newly elected member of Congress, and there is also obviously a lot of parallels with the Jeremy Corbyn, what's happening, the accusation being waged against Jeremy Corbyn and Chris Williamson. But what I found really sad, depressing, is that it does give you some idea of the state of play, where we are at with freedom of speech and a certain group of people completely controlling and dominating the social narrative, even after a point, just the social narrative, but even what vis-a-vis of ourselves we are allowed to think, not just what we can say, what we can think. The fact that that was very sad, because I think this lady and Chris Williamson and Jeremy Corbyn, they're people of the uppermost integrity. But after start getting savage by all this mere accusation, is unfortunately, very sadly, both Chris Williamson and this lady they start to issue some sort of really abject apology when they had, I don't think they had anything whatsoever to apologize about. It was really depressing and sad. I found it really sad. Some growing apology when they have nothing, absolutely nothing whatsoever to apologize about, but they did. And then the following day, this little video came out from Momentum in this country. I'm a member of the Labour Party. I'm a proud member of the Labour Party. I'm a proud member of Momentum. I think this video was not one of the Momentum best, proudest, because basically what this video set up to do is allegedly to debunk all these alleged myths about anti-Semitism, And so I think that was a bit, I found an element, to be very entirely honest with you, I found in this video, like in the apology issued by Chris Williamson and by Ilan Omar, I found an element of groveling, which I found really depressing. And I found also in this Momentum video, which basically is very didactic. It's tell you like all these things people think about, Zionism, they're all false, and we tell you what you should think, and that's the real information that you should believe and stuff. I think that there was an element. I support Momentum entirely, and completely, but that was a bit of an element, unpleasant element of groveling there. But interestingly enough, one of the in this little video, as I say, I support Momentum. I think there are fantastic people in Momentum. But interestingly enough, to be like to tell you the truth, at some point they make a statement when they were talking about these horrible accusations that people made, about Zionism and the rest of it. They say, oh, actually, the Bank of England is owned by the government. Actually, they say all these people, all this conspiracy theory about the Bank of England and the Federal Reserve. They say actually the Bank of England is part of the government. You don't need to have all these conspiracy theories about the Bank of England, because the Bank of England is actually part of the government, which is totally false. But I suppose Momentum. I suppose that shows that, the pressure they're able to put on people is such that even the people, organizations which are characterized by the uppermost integrity, all of the time they just completely overwhelmed, and they just start issuing growing apologies when at time when they have nothing whatsoever to apologize about. So there you go. But enslavement. So the enslavement. So we go back to the theme of total enslavement, economic enslavement, psychological enslavement, uh, emotional enslavement, and political enslavement. We are all being enslaved. So and people like what happened. People the living conditions are getting increasingly difficult. So people like if you want to have some practicality of people, they have to have two jobs to feed their kids. Maybe they even need to drop to buy the food bank in the evening, and then they come home totally exhausted. They slump themselves in front of the telly, and they take in all the lies. In the semi-hypnotic state, they take in all the lies. They get in from Sky News and Channel 4 and the BBC, and in semi-hypnotic state, totally exhausted, they taking out this garbage, and then they get persuaded that even though their life is getting more shit every day, they're persuaded, oh, we live in the best, the BBC, I'm totally sure Theresa May, they say, we have the highest level of occupation in this country, people in employment in history, and everyone is doing fantastically. Just maybe they think like, oh, it's just me, I'm like a complete loser, because they believe all this kind of garbage. Then they think they feel even bad about themselves, because, oh, it's just me that I have to have two jobs and use the food bank to feed my kids, because everyone is doing fantastically well. But it's this no, because the million of people they destroy everything. They privatize even the air we breathe. They're destroying the public services. What little is left, they're destroying it. So it's all the 10 city homeless people and the disabled people being murdered. Blind people find fit to work, people with terminal cancer being found fit to work and sent to find a job, to look for a job. People getting sanctioned for 6 weeks, not having anything to eat. So it's but people probably too exhausted even to realize what's going on. too exhausted, trying to survive their debt, all this horrific thing happening around them. Being burned alive in tower blocks and things, that they're too exhausted to even realize what's going on, that they're screwing up not just them, they're screwing up everybody. So get together and do something about it. So let's have a look at some more Orwellian news. What's going on in the some more Orwellian news? What's going on? So that's another one about the video on Sunday. Oh, that's a good one. Basically, it's not necessarily new information, but it seems so extreme, so horrific. I mean, global research is usually a very careful and source of information. So I mean, they're not conspiracy theorists by any stretch of the imagination. The global research led by the excellent, I can remember, Michael Chosudowski in Montreal, they seem to yeah, what they seem to say, they seem so horrific that even myself I find difficult to believe it, but it's actually not necessarily particularly old, recent news, but it's information has been out for quite some time, and it's so horrific that I myself I find is quite difficult to believe it. But basically it's a shock, fracking used to inject nuclear waste underground for decades. So what they seem to be saying, if I understand it, my understanding is correct, they seem to be suggesting that basically they have found a way of killing three birds with one stone. Yeah. So basically, in fracking, they use all this nuclear waste, which previously they were absolutely desperate, not knowing what to do with it. They dispose of it, pushing it into the ground. So that's the first advantage from their point of view. They found a way of disposing of some of the nuclear waste, not all of it, because they're covering the entire planet with this shite, but I mean, some of it they push into the ground, so they get rid of it this way. And that's quite reminiscent of the old story about fluoride, which I'm going to get to in a second. Then the second advantage of this, doing this kind of unspeakable thing, which let's again have a look at the other advantage from their totally psychopathic point of view, if in engaging in this kind of activity, is that they obviously get a little money from extracting, a little helpful for the cash flow, to get a bit of money from this extracting this liquid natural gas, which is it's a lot, so much more expensive than any other petrol they can get. But anyway, it's good for the cash flow, And then the third thing is, apparently you can avoid reaching the conclusion that the third aim of using nuclear waste for fracking is that it's part of they basically try to make us all ill. It may sound like a completely crazy conspiracy theory, but I think they really try to kill us and to make us all ill. To get us debilitated. So you can even have the energy to find out what they're up to. If you think of AIDS, Ebola, that most people think they've been creating in their Frankenstein laboratory, some concrete evidence is starting to emerge. If you think of GMO food, what they're doing with GMO food, destroying natural crop, most of these basically GMO food is by now it's contaminating everything, because pollen can travel under the miles. So basically, once the genie is out of the bottle, you may assume that they are in the process of contaminating even organic crops with these gobshites. And then most of these seeds are sterile. So so it's not like in the good old days when you get in the good old days the farmers they can they have the crops and they can put a part of the seeds aside and they can plant them again into the ground, and then it was quite a nice arrangement. Now they have to go back to Monsanto and to these other Frankenstein criminals, because most of the seeds they're also sterile. So that's what they're doing to the environment is just mind-blowing, because then all the seeds, they contaminated other crops. And we get to today when there's no longer going to be any natural crop, because they're all kind of being all contaminated by this poison shite, all these crops. So it's mind-blowing. So interestingly, let's go back to the article, and that is very reminiscent what they've been doing with fluoride, and again, it's so evil that you think, oh, come on, it must be a conspiracy theory. And let me tell you what they've been doing with fluoride, which is a lot of people are convinced they've been doing that. So basically, starting with the Industrial Revolution and then the beginning of the centuries, increasingly one of the material which was mainly used in all the industrial application was aluminum. Aluminum. Now the thing is with aluminum, so it started to get replaced a lot of other material, and because it was lighter and because it was more strong and resilient or whatever. So the thing with aluminum is that to make aluminum you had to create a huge amount of fluoride. So in the process of making aluminum, you create a lot of waste under the form of fluoride. So what was happening at the beginning? They knew that fluoride was a highly toxic material, and they knew that they knew that fluoride was making people sick, was attacking the nervous system, was making people lethargic and passive. They knew. There are studies showing that. So they had to spend a lot of money. They were making all this aluminum. It was replacing all the other materials. So they had to spend a lot of money in disposing safely of the fluoride. Then this campaign started. I don't know exactly when. It was, I think, it may have been just after the end of World War II. I think there was this guy in the U.S. government starting this campaign to persuade people that fluoride was good for your teeth or for your mouth, dental hygiene or whatever. And then it's a lot of, not all of it, but quite a lot of this fluoride that in previous they were spending a lot of money to dispose of this stuff safely. They start injecting it into your water. But they knew it was toxic. And nowadays we get all people get very passive, very lethargic. So draw your own conclusions. But so it's difficult not to conclude that this was done maliciously. It's, okay, yeah, they save a bit of money by, they save a bit of money by not having to dispose of this, like part of this fluoride, because now they were like putting into the water, the drinking water of the population. But I think they really they have these people at the top. They have a very antagonistic relation with the 8 billion of us, with the ordinary people. I think they consider us like kind of cattle to be farmed, to be fleeced like sheep, and to cannon fodder for their war. A lot of war fought for the war, all the war we mean fought for recently for the state of Israel to completely destroy the, which purpose was specifically to completely destroy the Middle East. It's not, it's like, oh yeah, we're being a bit careful with Iraq, we went in and we disbanded all the, we disbanded all the police. We thought people went home really angry with all these guns and stuff. But then we disbanded all the military because they were compromised with Saddam Hussein. And so all these people from the military coming out with all these guns, completely angry, nothing to eat. So they said, oh, we've been a bit careless. Oh, come on. Since the time of the British Raj, they knew how to do this kind of thing. If they wanted to pacify the population in Iraq, they knew exactly what that was going to take. They really wanted to destroy the country and destroy the entire Middle East. That was all. That was the plan. Like General Wesley Clark said, that he was, he was talking with some insider at the Pentagon. He was told about the plan to. You say by 2005, it ended up taking a bit longer. By 2005, we are going to complete regime change 7 countries in the Middle East and the adjacent African. So that was supposed to be Lebanon, Iran, Iraq, Syria, Somalia, Sudan, and Libya. It took a bit longer. And so they were talking about regime change, but I think the plan was actually to completely destroy this country like we saw Libya, Iraq, Syria, Sudan, Somalia. So that was the plan, to completely destabilize the Middle East. So these people are really evil, and if you call them out, it's quite dangerous. If you expose their machination, is they are killing, oh, you anti-this, you anti-that, and then you get, in a couple of days, they put you on a thing, and they march, you burn at the stake. So that's what's happening usually. So let's see if you have any more news from the totally dystopian present of the 1984. There is something about the excellent William Beanie, which what people don't know about William Beanie, and NSA, well-respected, very well-respected, what people don't know about very well-respected whistleblower William Beanie is a NSA whistleblower together with Kirk Webby, that they actually completely support our target individual claims, like what we say, completely support our claims that we have been to the point that they actually, that was maybe 18 months ago, they started this initiative of starting a survey of target individual claim of the individual situation so there was a very large questionnaire which I filled at the time. I sent it in. So they completely believe us as target individual. William Beanie came to our covert harassment conference in Brussels in 2014. So obviously, I just forgot about that. Yeah, obviously support our claims. But then later, a couple of years later, they together with the other well-respected NSA whistleblower, Kirk Webby, they started this questionnaire for target individuals to try to get a better understanding of what was happening with target individuals, what is the common denominator of the thing happening to us, how we started with people, so they may start with different way for different people, but there is also something, common element and stuff. So yeah, so the people don't know. Actually, I took part in a video conference with William Beanie when there was William Beanie, Kirk, the target individual, Derek Robinson was, I think there was Ella Free was on the conference. And then I asked William what once he gathered, all this information, what he planning to do with it. I asked him actually, and. What is the priority in to take legal action, contact some NGO or whatever. So he say, it's, when we get the information, we're going to raise hell. But unfortunately, it's not easy, not so easy actually. So it sounds very militant. They say, once we get the information, we're going to raise hell. But I don't think, well, who knows? But it's very difficult because no one wants to know about targeting anyway. So. Quite difficult. And let's have a look again at yes, so that's William Beanie. It's quite another very interesting thing is William Beanie knows, he was technical director at NSA, so he knows a couple, about, one thing or two about forensic intelligence. So he managed to get hold of the DNC, the Democratic National Committee Act, the material, and he said that, he said many times that he did some forensic on the files. He said, because of the speed of the file transfer, this file, they've been transferred to some medium like, hard drive or something. It's not the speed of the transfer of the file of the DNC Act was such that it could not have been achieved over the internet. There is not, even in the faster internet connection, you get a transfer speed in data transfer speed in which is quick enough to have the speed in. So basically, he said the forensic show conclusively that this data was a leak. Someone took the trouble to to transfer all this file, this information on some medium, a hard drive, a portable hard drive, or something similar. He was not a hack, so he was not a Russian hack. He was so disproving all this theory on which all this Russiagate nonsense is based. He did some forensic. And he said, no, I look at the file. They be transferred with using some medium. He was not the internet, because no internet connection at this time, and particularly maybe a couple of years ago, was such to allow such a quick data transfer. So that's quite interesting. That's what William Bean has been saying for the last couple of years about doing the forensic on the DNC hack, so-called. But he say, no, it was not a hack, it was a leak. Some insider get really fed up with all this shite, and he felt he had to blow the whistle. They buried. It's quite interesting because they completely buried Bernie Sanders, and politically, and 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 basically, all the people attention that the courtesy of all these prostitutes, ruffians in mainstream media, people did start asking the very important question like, why is not Bernie Sanders there, winning the Democratic nomination? They start fantasizing about this so-called Russian hack, which then is William Beanie. Knows a couple of things about forensic and intelligence data, because he actually wrote this program. William wrote this program, which was like a very cheap, a very effective, program to process all these. It's the one who wrote the program to process all this colossal information the NSA is hoarding up. It was a very cheap program. He built in-house, but at the time William was working for the NSA, so it was very cheap, built in-house by William. And the people in charge, they decided to go for another program, so it's another corporate, welfare, for a different program, which was costing 100 times as much. It was totally ineffective, because it's all about all the Pentagon, NSA, CIA. They're all in bed with all these companies. So it's all a revolving doors. They get the money and they get the job in non-executive director. So I mean, is all a cesspool of seething corruption. But let's see if we can go back, discover some more interesting information about the activity of these criminals, these common criminals. Oh, there is an article by Big Brother Watch, which is particularly concerned at the moment. Is a UK organization, which is actually, they have a little office just round the corner from the House of Parliament. Yeah. So they say that they managed to arrange a meeting with Twitter. That was the March the 4th. So they're probably referring to this morning. They say, we are meeting Twitter this morning to discuss our concerns about the erosion of freedom of expression on the platform. As I said, 2,000 account questioning the official narrative of Venezuela deleted overnight. So, erosion of freedom of expression on the platform. The government white paper on online art is due any day now. It is likely to result in more censorship, plus monitoring of our digital public squares, venues. So basically, on top of all the censoring that Twitter and Facebook and YouTube they do, Google, they do on their own accord, now there is going to be a government, a multi-story government, a white paper on online arms, and which is probably becoming an instrument to censor people, freedom of speech and views even more. So every time they come, like all these initiatives they're taking, basically, it is basically censor. Yeah? They now is in Brussels. I don't know if it's just passing through the European Parliament now. If we've already gone through the European Parliament, there is there is this there is this. They're passing this legislation, which is draconian legislation about, like, copyright. So if you mention, like, for like, the name of a company, to say the name of the company, you say they are evil criminals, they may not be able to go after you for saying that they are evil criminals, but they are like. They may be able to go after you because you mentioned the copyrighted name of the company or the copyrighted name of one of their products or whatever. So it is totally draconian. So that's another instrument of censor. That's another instrument. So basically, in the last 2 or 3 years, basically, freedom of speech is completely gone, more or less. And it's quite interesting because we can have a look. We can have a look at when Facebook is taking advice on what is fake news and what is not fake news. They decide to go for this think tank called the Atlantic Council, which basically was, since the time of the old Soviet Union, the Cold War, it was basically an instrument of, anti-communist propaganda. So it was like the Voice of America and all this Radio Europe. So basically producing a lot of, warmongering propaganda. They have a long history to be like an arm of NATO. So when Facebook they decided to go to seek advice to decide, to help, some help in deciding what is fake news, what is real news, they went to the Atlantic Council, which is traditional, is an arm of NATO. It was it's used by NATO during the Cold War. So that's what. Then Microsoft, instead, they're doing something different. They created the application NewsGuard, called NewsGuard, where they in building what to say, the thin side of the wedge or whatever. I mean, now they started to they created this application, which is goes with their new the new browser, which no one wants to use anyway. So I mean, it was called Internet Explorer, and now they rebranded it to make some changes. They call it Edge. And I think that most people think it's crap. It's totally crap, the Microsoft browser, compared to browser like Google Chrome and Firefox, which is my favorite one. And even Opera, they think the Microsoft, Microsoft browser is total crap. But they create this application for their browser, which is now called Edge. Basically, a NewsGuard, whereby if you install this application, then you go to a new site like Russia Today, for instance, or the BBC, and you get like a color warning, like if you get a green light, it means that it's kosher, like the BBC, the Guardian, Sky News, and this kind of criminal organization. And if you like to go to look at the browse on RT, you get the either amber or a red light, meaning that be careful, fake news. So, but the most interesting thing is that this NewsGuard organization is it's quite interesting to see who is directing all this wondrous new organization. I think that the top man is a guy called, I'm sure you heard about him, a guy called James Clapper, which is, he was a former director of the Department of Homeland Security, which one of the, by the way, one of the main, I have this thing, I keep digressing, but one of the main architects of this of the U.S. Department of Homeland Security was a guy called Marcus Wolf, which he was the last director of Stasi, before the fall of the Berlin Wall, and then he was actually presiding over the Zersetzung program, whereby, during the last day of communism in East Germany, dissidents were gaslighted and basically, instead of putting them in jail because it was started to look a little bad, there was different political climate in Europe, so no, stop jailing them, and they were driving them mad. The constant harassment, gaslighting. A lot of these people, dissident, in East Germany, they either lost their reason or they committed suicide. So Marcus Wolf, after doing this wondrous work in East Germany, in the last day of the East German Republic, they moved to the United States, became an asset of U.S. intelligence, and then he was one of the main architects of integration of the Department of Homeland Security. Now, so this wondrous organization called NewsGuard, the top man, I think, is James Clapper, which he was at some point the director of the Department of the Homeland Security. Then at some point, I think he was also for a short while, he was also the director of the NSA. That's one of the guys who's supposed to, decide what is fake news. James Clapper, I think, he was also the guy at some point. He said because he's a bit of a show off. James Clapper, so somebody was the guy during a conference. I said, "Oh, we kill people through metadata." So he was showing off a bit. He was saying, "Oh, we kill people through metadata." James Clapper also the guy, I think he was testifying in front of Congress. He say just weeks before Snowden, he said, "Oh, we never spy on the American people." That's what James. He's in charge now of NewsGuard, Microsoft NewsGuard, together with another guy called, I believe, Tom Ridge, which he was for some time also the director of Homeland Security. So that's basically is really awful what they're doing to freedom of speech, and it seems that every time there is some kind of it's a kind of problem or some kind of either genuine problem with information or contrived most of the time. They use it as a pretext nowadays to very quickly to take away what little freedom of speech we have left. So it seems that all these studies and this research, this initiative, there is only one aim: to completely kill off dead our freedom of speech. So that's what seems to be going on at the moment. So enslavement, that is the word: enslavement. So see if I have any more wondrous news for you. And okay, this wonderful lady in the United States, member of Congress. She said, "I am anti-occupation." Ilan Omar. Yeah, I'm anti-occupation, not anti-Semitic. Immoral spouse with fellow Democrat, my God, over Israel. So, good luck. Good luck, yeah. So she's being victimized, obviously, and it's interesting to remember what happened to another former. No, she's still a member of Congress. It happened to a former member of Congress, the fantastic and excellent Cynthia McKinney. She basically, that's the one who tried to expose the fact that basically most members of Congress, to get any help from the IPAC and similar organization in the campaign to get re-elected, etc., they need to sign a paper with pen, sign a paper, when they commit themselves to, never voice any criticism of the state of Israel. So Cynthia, which is a woman of great integrity, she refused, and she was defeated in the following election. So, as you do. Because then obviously they start piling a lot of money into the campaign of your opponent, so they don't have a chance then. And I will advise everyone to watch the excellent Al Jazeera documentary I will advise everyone to look at the excellent Al Jazeera documentary called The Lobby, meaning the IPAC, which is a 4-hour documentary. It's well worth it because it tells you about things going on which you thought, oh my God, if someone had been telling you, say, oh my God, you must be crazy. Impossible. That's a conspiracy theory. So it journalist from Al Jazeera went undercover dealing with all these different. It's like an octopus. I mean, you think of the IPAC, but there is like a network of thousands and thousands of think tank. AstroTurf, political groups, and you know, um, NGO, and uh, the media connection, that all spinning for Israel and trying to like destroy all kind of groups which espouse support for the right of the Palestinian people, or the group of DBS, divest, boycott, sanctions, etc. So they do horrific things, even to the point of getting women to make false allegations against people which may be vocal in supporting the rights of the Palestinian people, to destroy their family lives, to destroy their reputation, like it happened to an academic. I can't remember his name, unfortunately, but so I will advise, if you want to have some idea. I think they managed to sideline this documentary. So it was made by Al Jazeera some time ago, and hardly anyone know about it. I mean, they managed to completely sideline the documentary, so hardly anyone know about it. Even though it's a fantastic documentary which anyone should be watching. It's 4 hours long, but is totally interesting. So Al Jazeera journalist went undercover, having contact with actually a number of different groups all through the United States. And some of the conversation you recorded, that they make you like just stand up at the back of your neck. I mean, it's that awful, and people should know about it. But in the ideal world, because it's part of our political and social and cultural, it's an integral part of our cultural, political, and social landscape. Right, let's see if I can find some more value news for you. Oh, that's First Amendment can bust. Oh, yeah, that's probably, yeah. Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one from the Free Thought Project, which has been banned, I think, by various I mean, by various social networks, which probably sooner or later is going to happen to myself. And it's only a question of time. So I say, billionaire pedophile privilege, press blackout suggested for Epstein, Orgy Island airing. There we go. So basically, it's the legal team for attorney Alan Dershowitz, which is a very nice person. He's a very nice individual. He's involved in all this. There's some kind of horrible story about propaganda, or like silencing whistleblower, on doing a horrific thing to his fellow human being. That's you find the name of Alan Dershowitz. He's a very nice guy, and a caution against press access to a hearing regarding his former client, associate, convicted pedophile Jeffrey Epstein, who was given a slap on the wrist in 2008 by then U.S. Attorney for Southern Florida, a current Labor Secretary, Alex Acosta. Epstein sexually abused dozens of underage girls in his Palm Beach mansion. Why Acosta? Well, not just in Palm Beach. I mean, he has the entire island to do this stuff. I mean, he owns the entire island, the U.S. Virgin Island, where he does. All of these unspeakable things. Why Acosta is under fire separately of a series records appeal. All right. Okay, what does that mean? Well, Epstein, a billionaire and friend of the Clintons, Bill Clinton flew on his Lolita Express Boeing 727 jet dozens of times. Epstein was convicted of soliciting an underage girl for prostitution to count for which he served 13 months in a custody war with work release, so basically 30 months, and basically it was like in some sort of hotel, which was supposed to be a prison. Epstein, now 66, reached the deal in 2008, but so a lot of people, I'm not saying that this is the truth. I'm telling you what a lot of people think. A lot of people think that part of the system of control they have, and including propaganda, is also include blackmail. So they think like, well, it's not just, there's some evidence, I need to be cautious about this stuff, but there's some evidence also, like, people think that is, it's done this operation in Lolita Island, which is called, I think I knew the name of that. It's part of the U.S. Virgin Islands. It's a small island as part of the U.S. Virgin Islands. It's called Little St. John's or something. It is the real name of this Lolita Island. They think actually this is a political operation. Run by a specific, what people think is run by the Mossad actually, to basically compromise politicians and control them in, to get compromising video of different politicians and I know I'm not going to get any brownie point for saying this, but I think sooner or later my social network account is probably going to get closed and something, so it's only a question of time. But amongst the visitors of Lolita Island, there was Bill Clinton, which was there all the time, and Donald Trump. Prince Andrew, which is really a good pal of Jeffrey Epstein, it would appear that every time Jeffrey Epstein fly into London, he stay with his good mate pal Prince Andrew in some of the royal palaces. So, and then they included the visitor included I think Woody Allen, former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak, Eric Kissinger. I think was one of the chosen guest. Don't get me wrong. don't misunderstand me. Chosen guest, and and interestingly enough, the partner of Jeffrey Epstein is a partner in real life, also partner in crime, seemed to be Ghislaine Maxwell, which is the daughter of Robert Maxwell, which many people believe was operating in this country before dying or getting suicided. Or committing suicide, who knows? It wasn't his little boat, so I was not there, so I don't know. But people think he was suicided. It was many people believe that he's actually had this big. It was at the time it was the owner of the Daily Mirror and many other newspapers, and he was controlling this media empire, propaganda empire. But many people believe at the time that he was actually a Mossad agent. He was working for Israeli. He was working together, say, with Israeli intelligence. But there's a lot of stuff in his past which says that is a conspiracy theory. No, it is not. I mean, there is actually he has a lot of connection with. It may have even been at the time of after the Second World War part of this Israeli terrorist group that were killing diplomats and things. The Irgun was one of the guys. So it is people have reason to believe that that he was now. So quite interesting. His daughter Ghislaine Maxwell, which is the partner of Jeffrey Epstein, but is also apparently his partner in crime because he's procuring young girls for Jeffrey Epstein for this operation. Is the daughter of I read the late Robert Maxwell. So the people, the people, what people write, they jump to conclusion. They think this whole operation there is possibly a Mossad brothel aim at compromising and controlling politicians. So that's another interesting one. Okay, so I mean, I talk about this stuff, and I don't think that is making me more popular, but bringing up Prince Andrew and the rest of this. But someone has to do it. Oh, and then there is another good news. Good news is about YouTube censor false flag weekly news. We need your help. So apparently there was this YouTube operation organization called FFWN, False Flag Weekly News, and they probably get a big kick into probably they've been kicked off YouTube. The censored kangaroo courts are really hopping, and we are hopping mad. Oh yeah, it's quite interesting. That brings me. I see this nice, lovely picture of David Icke. I mean, and this, I have huge reservation about David Icke. I mean, that's huge reservation. I mean, no. I met him at the. I don't want to say anything against David Icke because he's, on the other hand, he's one of the few people that dare say certain things. So, I mean, people shouldn't say anything against David. I mean, I actually met him at when there was the Bilderberg meeting in London a few years ago. It was in Watford and on the outskirts of London. And then the protesters, because there were people protesting every Bilderberg meeting, they quite tongue-in-cheek, they call it the Bilderberg Festival. And so they were asking for permission to protest of the meeting, because the only option is for them to be there in the street, blocking the street, or to be inside the ground of the hotel. They gave them permission to be at the very bottom of the ground of the hotel, a long, great distance from the actual hotel, from the actual meeting. So the people were confined to this little space just close to the entrance of the ground. Huge, ground is this hotel for millionaires and billionaires. And so I was there leafleting about targeting on both days, Friday or Saturday, and at some point we saw we saw Alex Jones and David Icke together chatting and walking through the grounds. Wherever they went, there was a huge crowd of people around them taking pictures, taking video. I took some video actually. I have the video. And so I meant to get closer at some point. I gave some leaflet about targeting the boat. And they both took the leaflet, and then I even shook, which is probably going to get me a lot of stick. I think I actually shook Alex Jones' hand at the time, yeah. But you're fascist, whatever. I'm a populist. I'm for the people and against all these criminals. So banking criminals and the rest of it. So I am a populist, and I don't. I stand for the people against all these financial criminals. I wouldn't say anything against David Icke, even though all the reptilian stuff I think is not particularly helpful. But I think it's on the other hand is speaking out on certain matters where most people don't dare to speak out. So I wouldn't say absolutely nothing against David Icke. The thing with David Icke, the kangaroo, the thing about David Icke is that recently he has booked, he was booked to speak to have a speaking tour in Australia, and he was denied entry into the country. He was denied a visa. So that's, I think, is pretty disgusting. That's, I think, whatever you think of David Icke, to prevent him from entering Australia. I think it was at the. I think it was at the. I think he spoke at the Acapulco meeting rally in the US. And then he was probably due to travel directly to Australia, and then he couldn't because he was denied access to the country by the current Tory government, which is a bunch of people. So yeah, okay. It's quite interesting because the current Australian Tory government is also the people which don't give a proverbial for. I mean, they completely washing the hand of Julian Assange. They can do whatever they want to Julian Assange. They're going to look the other way. So that's another thing about the current Australian government. So let's see if I can unearth some. So these people, false flag weekly news, they've been kicked out of YouTube, as you do. Oh, this is another good one. Is the propaganda multiplier? How global news agency and Western media, I suppose that's what it means, report on geopolitics. Yeah. Yeah, so he's talking basically about these news agencies. We talk about Reuters, Associated Press, French Associated Press. It's quite interesting because in this, um, is it's quite interesting because this Momentum documentary, which was supposed to debunk all this theory, evil theory, and malicious theory about the bankers and the Rothschild and things, and the Bank of England, which apparently is part of the government, which is a new one. I wonder since when, but so these. I support Momentum, but and not to say that I have to support everything they do. Like they make this groveling video in the wake of the Chris Williamson affair. They make this groveling video when they say that the Bank of England is part of the government, and and so they say, oh, they're a child, they're just a few quids, and they just they're struggling to. They're just struggling to make a living, and that's what debunking all this evil conspiracy theory about the bankers and and the rest of it. And it's quite interesting because you can say it's very easy to perform for these very rich people to disguise their wealth. I mean, you have heard about Momentum people. Have you heard about tax havens, all this the kind of stuff where they move money around? So, I mean, all the poorer child now, they all like their own benefit, and they try to holding down to jobs to feed the kids and things. I mean, like that's what this Momentum video seem to suggest. But they're quite interesting because we know that one of the first things, interesting enough, the Rothschild family, as soon as they managed to get together a bit of money at the that was the kind of beginning of the 19th century. One of the first things they did, we know that one of the things they did in first, I don't remember that, but around 1846, they acquired the ownership of the Reuters news agency. And then maybe 5 years later, in 1851, they acquired ownership of Associated Press. So they're quite precautious in understanding the value of controlling timely in having a control of information and similar things. And then it's quite interesting because they're all scraping to put all these poorer child, they're all scraping to put food on the table, and they're just a few quids, and But it's quite interesting because there's people talk a lot about the banks, but the really interesting people at this interesting organization at this are these asset management company, because what we have with the big asset management companies, we have up to 4 or 5 asset management companies, which basically among themselves they control maybe 90-95% of all the banks, or big oil, pharma, chemical, defense, So these 4 or 5 big sisters, asset management companies, two are rumored to be owned by the Rothschild family. One of them is called BlackRock, and one of them is called Blackstone. So between these two, they probably have the controlling interest in all the major world banks, all the major. So this momentum documentary or video, which is supposed to educate us that all this evil conspiracy theory, all people maligning the Rothschild and the banker, which are so nice, the banker. I mean, we see what they've been doing in 2008 bankers. I mean, we are all maligning and going for this crazy conspiracy theory, and actually this momentum video is telling us that actually no, the Bank of England is part of the government, you see. So, I support momentum, but, I don't think this video is probably their proudest moment or something. I mean, this groveling video. So, yes, so talking about this information, what we want, information. So, there we go. So, yes, so this is talking a bit about, so basically what he's saying is staying on the subject of mainstream media, how at the center of mainstream media you got these, particularly now that most of these mainstream media, they are in the red, basically they spend more money than they make, and then they need all these billionaires to bail them out, etc., etc. So they rely heavily on, you see their article, but most of the time what they're doing, they're copying and pasting articles coming out of Reuters or Associated Press, which in the in 1800 they were acquired by the Rothschild family, but apparently we don't know what's happening with the ownership of with these two news agencies now. We know that they were acquired in around 1850. They were acquired by the Rothschild family. We don't know of the current ownership. We don't even allowed to know about the current ownership of the Bank of England. So we don't know. And so so I think. This is also from Catherine Johnston. How not to beat the smear campaign. Corbyn calls for UK to condemn Israeli targeting of Palestinians. So that's. I'm going to end now because I've been doing this thing for now more than 2 hours. So okay, so Senator Corbyn, to his credit, is not allowing himself to be cowed by all these allegations. So on the wake of the UN statement, that the recent activity of the IDF in Gaza may constitute war crimes, Jeremy Corbyn, is calling. So it's good for him. He's not going to be intimidated by calls for UK to condemn Israelis targeting of Palestinians during the recent Gaza protests. So good for him. Obviously, he shouldn't hold his breath, because if he's waiting for the American government to condemn Israel about anything, it's probably. So he shouldn't hold his breath. But it's good for him that at least is carry on standing up for what is right. Quite in character. How not to beat the smear campaign. That's they should good read. There should be a prescribed read for Jeremy Corbyn and Chris Williamson and okay. So And then just okay. Then this event, which doesn't seem to be getting a lot of interest, unfortunately. I thought it would because I, as soon as I learned that on April 26th, people in the U.S. they're going to rally in Sacramento at the Capitol in Sacramento to protest targeting. I just thought, well, it would be nice to have something similar in London, to do something together, to do something together. God, what's going on there? To do something together, but unfortunately, you know, I don't know. But it started. The whole thing started with the wrong foot because as soon as I started the event, Facebook prevented me from inviting anyone. So and then you know, so now there's apparently there's one going myself and two people interested there. So which is a bit disappointing. I thought, you know, like doing something with the target individual in the UK, doing something together at the same time of people targeting the US, maybe something actually a good idea, something, you know, can but for some reason, one of the reasons maybe that actually, you know, initially Facebook prevented me from inviting anyone. They say, oh, you're abused. Even though I've been inviting very few people to events in the last few months, they say, oh, you're abusing the feature and blah, blah, blah. You're not allowed to invite anyone and anymore. You already reached your whatever limit or something. So and then after that, I went back to the event. I was able to invite a handful of people. So that may have something to do with the fact that this event is completely being ignored by everybody. Anyway, I tell you again some of the details, which are, you know, is on Friday, April 26th, from 2 o'clock to 6 o'clock, so supposed to be 4 hours. Oh, I may shorten it because seeing that the lack of interest, you know, I may, but I don't know. In front of BBC Broadcasting House, I was actually be in front of the BBC on, I don't know if people, or maybe people saw my video, I was actually on Saturday in front of the BBC Broadcasting House on my own, shouting my slogans. So I think, you know, and I try to highlight things that I think are important, the concept that we're all being enslaved, the fact that target individuals, they basically live a life of constant torture because they are using us the canaries in the mind, the next generation of enslavement, the technique and technology that tomorrow will be used to enslave even more people in a more horrific way. So I think an important concept, a bit of history about what is going on is I think is important, a bit of background of all the abuse people receiving, homelessness, disabled people, and a million of people being constantly pushed into abject poverty. So I think it's quite important. So that I know it's work in progress. You know, I know I'm a bit guilty of rambling a bit and digressing a lot, and so. But you know, I think I bring to the table quite good information. I hope you know there at least some interest, and it also is important. Like you know, if you talk about targeting, I think it's important to put targeting in context of all the other stuff, horrific stuff is happening all over the world, not just you know not just to say, oh, we'll make a shopping list, oh, they're doing this to me, they're really nasty, and when I go to the shop, they do this to me and stuff, you know, because just that's why the way you lose people, people after a while, they completely stop listening to you. So I think it's quite important to you know, to see how target fits in the general context of what is going on, and so you know to create alliances. And on this note, I'm going to finally stop my rambling and my raving, and that's it for today.